Hello, and welcome to a PokemonXD Gale of Darkness video, where today we're going to be beating the game with the duo of Plusle and Minun. Now, I've never actually used these Pokemon because, on average, they're not all that great for a single-player Pokemon game. However, in this game, they can actually be incredibly powerful. And that's because of their abilities plus and minus. As long as they're paired together on the field at the same time, they get a plus 50% special attack boost on all their moves, which could be really strong even if they're not the strongest Pokemon stats-wise. Speaking of stats, Plusle has 60 HP, 50 attack, 40 defense, 85 special attack, 75 special defense, and 95 speed. And Minun has 60 HP, 40 attack, 50 defense, 75 special attack, 85 special defense, and 95 speed. They get access to mostly normal and electric type moves, and the only real difference between the two is that Plusle gets Fake Tears and Minun gets Charm. Another thing to note is that they both get Seismic Toss by Tutor, which could be extremely helpful for the ground types early on, and also they have access to Rain Dance, which I might not use, but could come in handy if I need the extra accuracy on Thunder. Anyway, with that, let's go ahead and get right into it, with our Plusle, which has an Adamant nature, raising its attack and lowering its special attack. Okay, probably not the best nature it could have gotten, but I guess early on, because I only really have Quick Attack, it could come in handy. It has the plus ability that when paired with minus raises your special attack by 50%, which is great of course. And according to Bulbapedia, it gets Quick Attack, Growl, and Thunder Wave by level 10. And our Minun has a Lonely nature, raising its attack and lowering its defense. Okay, well that's also not that great, but at least it doesn't lower our special attack. Minus is the same as plus, and according to Bulbapedia, it also gets Quick Attack, Growl, and Thunder Wave by level 10. So with that, the first thing we're going to do is teach Seismic Toss, just because there are ground types around that we need to be very careful of. And recently, I haven't really been showing off this battle, and that's just because in duos, it's usually not that bad because you have the extra power from another Pokemon. However, Plusle and Minun without a special attack are pretty frail and also fairly weak, so I thought it warranted actually going over it. But as you can see, there's nothing to really fear here. Abra went down pretty easily, and Shroomish is actually taking quite a bit of damage from them, even though they're only slightly higher leveled. But Seismic Toss finishes it off, and we move on to the battle against Egan, because we both learn Helping Hand, which I never actually end up using. Anyway, we move on to the Power Rangers. I decided to choose green this time. And time to start just a little bit of rambling. If you are enjoying this video so far, consider liking, and if you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. Now this video in particular was supposed to come out on Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day, I guess. And the only reason I didn't get it out on Valentine's Day was because I hadn't yet recorded the audio, which I just didn't have the time to do, but here it is now. Another thing I'd like to note is thank you for all the support on the latest video with Vileplume and Blossom. I know I took a 3-week hiatus that I hadn't really planned for, so I'd like to just thank you for showing up to that video and, you know, keeping things more or less consistent with how they had been prior. And speaking of which, consistent videos should be coming back, just as before, Tuesday and Friday, every week. As long as nothing big comes up again, I should be able to be consistent for at least the near future. Anyway, we move on. At level 19, I get Spark on both Plusle and Minun, and we go to the battle against Lovrina. So it's with a Beautifly and a Love Disc. I go for Spark into Love Disc on both, and take it down in a single Spark. Then out comes Roselia, which does resist Spark, but it actually still does quite a bit of damage anyway. And I double into it once again to take it down. And then that brings out her final Pokemon, which is a Shadow Delcatty. Now this thing has the potential to do a lot of damage, but I think 2 Sparks should be able to finish it off. Which one takes it well under half, and the other one takes it down. Then all that's left is Beautifly, which is weak to Spark, so it should just go down immediately. And a crit doesn't hurt. Of course, you can't have a PokemonXD Gale of Darkness video without the obligatory Mirabee. How you doing, Mirabee? Well, anyway, Mirabee, we actually need you today, and that's because you have a Voltorb, which is holding the Magnet item that raises all Electric-type moves by 10%. So I'll definitely want that. I go to the Railgam Tower to pick up my 2 favorite TMs, Hidden Power and Protect, and I go ahead and teach hidden power to both. Now Plusle gets hidden power flying, which is pretty good, it hits the grass types, but it's only 33 base power, which is abysmal, and Minun gets hidden power ghost at only 30 base power, which is even worse. Unfortunately, both these Pokemon got physical hidden power types as well, so it's not actually going to be all that useful except for very specific instances, so I doubt I'll have them for very long. Anyway, going into the battle against Snaddle, he leads with the Lantern and a Quagsire, and I do over half the Lantern in a single Spark, so I finish it off with the second Spark, and then out comes Lunatone. Quagsire uses Rock Tomb, not doing too much damage to me, go for a double Spark into Lunatone. It's not quite a 2-shot, but it does get fully paralyzed, which is nice. Quagsire takes me down to 1 HP, I go for Spark to finish off the Lunatone, out comes Cast Form, which might not even survive a Spark. And survives on a Sliver. Quagsire hits another Rock Tomb, so now I'm getting fairly slow, hopefully not slower than Cast Form or Matang. Spark nearly takes down Matang in a single hit. Rock Tomb takes me down very low. I go for Spark to finish off Matang and use Quick Attack into Quagsire, which really isn't doing that much. Matang goes down. Ice Punch finishes off Minun, and unless I get really lucky here, Quick Attacks really aren't doing that much. Ice Punch takes me down to 2 HP. Try Hidden Power, which does almost nothing, and get taken down. Okay, well, back into the battle again. I went up a level, and I'm at full health this time, so as long as I don't get terrible luck, I should win. Now, I decide to actually start focusing on taking down the Quagsire right off the bat this time. Lantern's really not that big of a threat either, so I can take it down a bit slower and do quite a bit of damage to Quagsire to start taking it down. However, Lunatone is a bit of a threat because it will set up Shadow Sky if I'm not able to take it down, and unfortunately it outspeeds and does just that. I take it down with one last Spark, out comes Cast Form. Seismic Toss takes Quagsire very low, so I should be able to take down the Quagsire this next turn, and maybe even take down the Cast Form with the help of the Fruity Pebbles. No, not quite. It does get paralyzed though. Quagsire goes down, out comes Matang. Icy Wind hits both of us, lowering our speed. Not really doing that much damage though. Fruity Pebbles rain down. And I go for Quick Attack to finish off the Cast Form, and Spark to start doing damage to the Matang, which takes it down to yellow. Metal Claw actually misses. Fruity Pebbles rain down, and I finish it off with one last Spark. So a pretty easy Snaddle. In the Snag and base, both Plusle and Minun learn Thunder, and I move into the battle against Gonzap. He leads with a Nuzleaf and an Electrode. The Nuzleaf will always go for Fake Out on the first turn, which it's just a 50-50 on who it's actually going to hit. I use Thunder into Electrode, doing well over half of its health, and you can see me doing a lot of scrolling around, and that's because if I hit it with a contact move, I risk being paralyzed, so I decide to just double Thunder into it. I miss on one, but I hit on another, and Electrode goes down, then out comes Vileplume, which could definitely be a real threat with Sleep Powder. Now, Nuzleaf actually finishes off my partner Plusle, which unfortunately gets rid of the plus-minus effect, so I am going to be doing a lot less damage now. And unfortunately, I do eventually go down, because I just don't have the strength or durability to survive much longer. Hyper Beam hits and finishes me off. Okay, well, I decide to go ahead and teach Body Slam from the Tutor Lady, and go back into the battle for the third attempt. Now, I double Thunder into Electrode because I want to take it down as soon as possible, but unfortunately I miss and the other one flinches. So I decide to change my strategy. I decide to take down the Nuzleaf this turn instead, and that's because I realized that Electrode actually doesn't really have anything to do effective damage to us other than Sonic Boom. So I'd rather deal with it alongside the stronger Pokemon rather than having to deal with Hyper Beams occasionally coming out. I get a lucky miss on Sleep Powder, so I'm able to finish off the Vileplume. And I go for Thunder in the Electrode because now the Whiscash is coming out. I decide to not take Baton Pass because it's not really that useful. And go for Thunder, which gets a critical hit and takes down the Electrode in a single hit. That's a bit lucky. I go for Spark into Skarmory and Seismic Toss into Whiscash, which Spark actually takes down Skarmory in a single hit, and Seismic Toss does a sizable chunk to Whiscash. And this was the main reason I taught Body Slam, is because I got into a similar situation like this before, but only having Quick Attack didn't really do enough damage to the Whiscash. Anyway, at the pyramid, I run into a fellow Minun. Goodbye, Minun. And I get the move Thunderbolt, which I teach over Spark. And I run into a Plusle. Hello, Plusle. Goodbye, Plusle. At the top of the pyramid, I run into Gorgon, who leads with the Celio and a Lairon. I decide to double into Celio because Lairon's going to protect this turn. And because of that, I'm able to take down his first 2 Pokemon with relative ease. And then out comes Ursaring, and I decide to double into the Ursaring, which was clearly the wrong choice because it protected, and I get hit with a really strong Earthquake. Okay, well now I can take down the Ursaring without worrying about it, and I go for Thunder into the Lairon, which should take it down a single hit, unless it misses and I get hit with Earthquake and taken down. Okay, well that's a little unfortunate, but come in again, go for Thunderbolt and Spark into Celio once again. Get a critical hit this time, but it definitely wasn't necessary. Out comes the Slowking, which goes down to Spark once again, so I know it's not a range. Then out comes Ursaring once again, who protects, except it didn't protect this time. So apparently the Gorgon just decided to protect last time for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, I take down the Lairon in a single hit, and it goes for Slash, doing about half my health. Thunderbolt takes down the Ursaring, and Spark finishes off the Primeape. And then out comes the Shadow Hypno, and then just a Thunderbolt and a Spark finish it off. So not too bad, a pretty easy second attempt. Now I am going to show up here again, because I need a certain TM. Comment down below if you know which one it is. Anyway, going into the final area of the game, they're doing pretty well right now, so as long as they don't stumble too bad, they should end up with a pretty decent spot. So with that, we go into the first battle against Lavrina. She leads with a Gardevoir and a Gorbis. And I decide to take down the Gardevoir right away. Even though I do risk getting attracted, I do have the other one to pick up the slack. And Spark takes Roselia nearly down to half health. And surprisingly, the Gorbis didn't go for Attract. It went for Ice Beam, which really didn't do too much damage. Thunderbolt finishes off Roselia. Out comes Shadow Farfetch'd, which can be kind of annoying with Shadow Panic. I take down the Gorbis in a single hit, and then out comes her final Pokemon, which is a Shadow Altaria. Go for Thunderbolt to start doing damage to Altaria, which it's not quite a one-shot, but it's pretty darn close. Farfetch goes down in a single Spark, and all I need to do is hit it one more time. So with the finishing blow struck, Altaria goes down, and we beat Lavrina. At the top of the mountain, I decide to teach Protect on Minun before going into the battle against Snattle. He leads with a Quagsire and a Metang this time. I go for Body Slam and Seismic Toss to try to take down the Quagsire as quick as possible. Unfortunately, it's not a one-shot. I get hit with a pretty nasty Mud Shot, lowering my speed, and doing quite a bit of damage to me. The Thunderbolt takes down Metang with ease. Out comes Scizor. Seismic Toss finishes off the Quagsire, bringing out Solrock, which, if it's not dealt with immediately, will set up Shadow Sky. So I decide to Thunderbolt into it, which does take it down, luckily. And then out comes Castform, go into Spark to take down the Castform, and then all that's left is the Shadow Starmie, which I don't think is faster than me. So I go for Thunderbolt and Spark into it, which it's not faster than me. Thunderbolt takes it down in a single hit, and Spark nearly takes down the Scizor. Silver Wind takes down Plusle, but damage is already done. Spark finishes it off, and that's Snattle. Moving on to Ardos, he leads with an Alakazam and a Swellow. And I go for Thunderbolt to take down the Swellow immediately, and Spark to take down the Alakazam, which it doesn't. It hits me with a strong Psychic, nearly doing half my health. Thunderbolt takes down the Kingdra, and Spark finishes off the Alakazam. And then out comes Electabuzz and Heracross. Now, Electabuzz is going to resist all of our moves and is a Shadow Pokemon, so it's going to be quite a threat. I go for Spark, unfortunately get paralyzed because of it. But hopefully, as long as I don't get paralyzed, I should be able to take it down next round. Go for Thunderbolt, which almost takes down Heracross in a single hit. It's very close. Electabuzz hits Shadow half, doing a ton of damage to Plusle and Minun. And I finish it off with Spark. And out comes Snorlax, which is definitely the biggest threat. Now, I do need to get rid of the Heracross probably, so I decide to Thunderbolt into the Heracross and use Spark to hopefully get a paralysis, but unfortunately, because I'm paralyzed and have my speed reduced, I am slower than the Snorlax. Get a lucky crit, but it's not enough, and I go down. Okay, well it's very close. I go into the battle once again, and end up in the exact same situation. Okay, well, something needs to change, and that change is Rain Dance, the TM I mentioned before, so if you were able to guess that, good job. Anyway, I teach that over Spark, and go into the battle once again. Now with Rain Dance, I'm going to try to set that as often as possible. because my only attacking move now is Thunder or Seismic Toss. And luckily I happen to be slightly slower than Swallow, so I'm able to set it up while it sets up Shadow Sky. I go for Thunder, which takes down the Swallow. And then out comes Heracross, another Thunder takes down the Kingdra. And then out comes Electabuzz, which I definitely need to take down immediately. Go for Thunder into it, which gets a crit and takes it down in a single hit, luckily. Out comes Snorlax. Minun hits Thunder, doing about half health to Snorlax, but because it's got the leftovers item, it will actually start healing past that point, so I do need to double into it. Unless Plusle just lands a high roll Thunder and takes it down in a single hit, and Heracross goes down in a single hit. Much easier. Move on to Gorgon once again. He leads with the Slowking and an Ursaring. I go for the same strategy once again. Thunderbolt to take down the Slowking right away, and Rain Dance to set up Thunder. And with that, I'm ready to just completely destroy his entire team. Aggron protects. I take down Ursaring in a single hit, then out comes Walrein, which 2 Thunder should take down both. Thunder into Walrein takes it down. And out comes Shadow Poliwrath, which really isn't that big of a threat this time. And a crit into Aggron. Don't think I needed it though, but it is good to have anyway. Out comes Mr. Mime, and both of these should go down to a single Thunder. And that's Gorgon. Pretty easy. Okay, well, moving on to Eldis. He leads with a Ninjask and a Shadow Manectric. Now, Manectric is going to set up Shadow Sky, so as long as I'm slower than it, I should be able to... Okay, well, I'm a little bit faster than Manectric, unfortunately, so Shadow Sky beats out my Rain Dance, so I need to do it again. But not before taking down the Manectric and trying to do damage to Salamence, which it is going to be neutral to Thunder. And it does do quite a lot of damage, but because Thunder is inaccurate right now, it's not worth relying on it. So I go for Thunderbolt and Rain Dance to finish off the Salamence. And then out comes Flygon, which I'm not going to be able to hit with my electric type moves because it is part ground. So I'm going to start Body Slamming and Seismic Tossing to try and do as much damage as I can to it, which I am doing well over half. Double Edge hits doing a ton of damage. I go for another Body Slam and Seismic Toss because the next Pokemon coming out is Shadow Marowak, so I also can't use electric moves into it. Seismic Toss does about half health, so I should be able to take it down next round without any issue. Unfortunately, Plusle goes down to a critical hit dig, and Minun gets revenge by taking it down with Seismic Toss. Then out comes Lapras, which I need to take down immediately, otherwise it'll set up Shadow Sky. And then all that's left is the Ninjask, which as long as I get lucky, I should be able to take down here. Okay, well that wasn't too bad. Moving on to the big box legendary, Shadowlugia. It's weak to electric moves, so it should just go down in a couple hits. And that's that. So moving on to Gravel, he leads with a Shadow Rhydon and a Shadow Moltres. And I go for Thunderbolt into Moltres, but unfortunately this Rhydon actually has Lightning Rod, which is just something it can occasionally have in this fight. Actually, if anyone knows how often the Rhydon has Lightning Rod in this fight, let me know, because that'd be pretty interesting. Anyway, Minun's taken down fairly low, and I go for Body Slam and Seismic Toss, trying to do as much damage as I can to the Rhydon to get it gone, but unfortunately it survives on just a little bit of health and Minun goes down. Luckily it does miss another Shadow Wind, allowing me to see how much Body Slam actually does to Moltres, which is very little. So I decide to take down the Rhydon, and Executor comes out, but I'm definitely too weak to survive much more, and Shadow Fire takes me down. Okay, well, before I go into the next fight, I decide to teach Swagger over Thunder Wave, which might seem a little counterproductive, but Rhydon already does a ton of damage anyway when it hits Shadow End, and this will just speed up attempts if I know that it has Lightning Rod like it does here. So I go for Swagger this next turn, and as long as it actually hits itself, I'll be able to start using electric type moves. So Shadow Fire takes me down to yellow, it goes down, out comes Executor, and now it's time to set up Rain Dance and Thunder. So go for Thunder, go for Rain Dance. Luckily Minun's a little faster. Thunder takes down Moltres in a single hit, out comes Tauros, which I need to take down immediately, otherwise it'll set up Shadow Sky. Unfortunately I am risking being hit by Executor now. Go for Thunder to take down the Tauros. Out comes Articuno. And then I go for Thunder, which takes Executor down to red. Luckily it misses another Shadow End, so I'm able to take it down and Articuno. And then all that's left is the Zapdos. Now, I'm not sure if Zapdos will actually go down to a single Thunder. I think it's fairly likely because of just how strong we are, but go for Thunder, and it gets a crit and takes it down. Okay, well, I'm not sure if the crit was necessary, but we take those. So how well did Plusle and Minun do? Well, they beat the game at a time of 9 hours, 40 minutes, and 42 seconds at levels 61 and 68, respectively, and only lost 17 times throughout the entire game, which is honestly incredible considering the fact that they have some terrible natures and had some really bad hidden power types as well with low base powers. But I think that just goes to show just how strong the electric type actually is, because it's almost always the movesets that let them down. But in this case, Minun was actually able to get Seismic Toss very early on, which even though it's not a great move, it allows me to hit ground types effectively, which definitely gets rid of a lot of the struggle in the early game, especially against Naps, which I didn't even end up showing because I got through them fairly easily because of it. And of course, I can't really talk about their strengths without talking about the ability plus and minus, because it is incredibly powerful. Even though Plusle and Minun themselves aren't all that strong, having that 50% attack boost really allowed me to break through a lot of walls that would otherwise just kind of block me from moving. And it wouldn't have been as effective if not for the fact that I have two Pokemon, one to set up Rain Dance and one to use Thunder immediately. And 100% accurate Thunders are incredibly powerful, especially with the ability and stab. So I think that they had a lot going for them. It takes a while to actually get to that point because the early game is fairly slow, but that's really the only downside. They do incredibly well throughout most of the rest of the game, so they find themselves at the top of the A tier. So nice work, Plusle and Minun, you did good. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, consider liking and subscribing. If you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. And thinking about it now, do you guys prefer the solo videos or do you like the duos videos? I'll still plan on doing both, like no one's not going to just completely take over the other, but I just want to gauge audience feedback, I guess. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and bye!